Didn't. I'm out of breath, dude. And I do not know where my glasses are. I need my glasses. I need my glasses. Sorry, didn't see you there. Where the fuck am I? What is going on? This is crazy. I actually do not know where I am. That's actually quite concerning. I was on my way. Funny to catch me at a time I can't see anything with these glasses. Funny to catch you at it. It's so hot in here as well. It's so fun. You sly dog. You mother. You got me just as I was about to go see the opening for Not Another Church movie, not a Tyler Perry movie, directed and written by Johnny Mack. I was gonna go see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes because that looked good, but it's not playing anywhere wherever this is. So I'm gonna go see that movie instead. Not Another Church movie, not a Tyler Perry movie, Tyler Medea movie thing, written and directed by Johnny Mack, 2018. There's a dead bug on the floor. That's different from the other hallway. I could, yeah. Have you ever felt like there's something invisible out to get you? Like when there's one little thing that's out of place in your otherwise routine day. Could be a small little thing. Maybe your keys aren't where you last remember putting them a second ago, and you swore you left them on the counter. Maybe on that road you drive to work, there's nobody there. It's absent of people. It's not the most strange thing, but it's different. Maybe when you get home to your house, there's a door at the end of the hallway. You don't remember being there before. It's not threatening, but it's different. What if all of these little things added up meant something? See, by themselves, they're not very threatening, but in an otherwise routine that you have locked down to a teenth, you do the same thing every day, and this sticks out to you like a sore thumb. And then you start looking for other differences, other weird things, other abnormalities. Is there someone messing with you? Is this the sign that something is wrong in an otherwise invisible threat? What if, when you're not paying attention to the little things, something comes and grabs you from behind? I do sincerely hope that nobody has ever had to experience anything like that before in their life. But if you want to try, there's a game I played a couple weeks ago that has never made me feel more paranoid playing a game. It's called The Exit 8. It's a small little indie horror game developed by Kotake Create. This is his first game, actually. It's a small
little indie game on Steam that you can buy for $4. It just being maybe 15 to 50 minutes depending on how long it takes you. It's not a very long game. It's a really short little indie horror experience that costs only $4. And it blew the fuck up on YouTube because a bunch of YouTubers like Markiplier and myself have up into big leagues have played it before. This is an assignment for a school project, by the way. And when I proposed this as my project and I showed him one of the thumbnails on YouTube, my professor asked me if this is related to fucking Skibbity Toilet, which it's not. I don't think it is. I understand the like you look at it, and I don't blame you. I really don't. But it's like what the fuck? This game is good. I promise this game is great. Despite how short it is. I promise this is not Skibbity Toilet. I think this may be one of the most effective uses of paranoia in any piece of media that I've ever played. This game is so good at its job, in fact, that I am a little hesitant to tell you why it's good at this. I am almost hesitant to unveil the curtains on all of the game's mechanics and everything because it's best played knowing nothing at all. If you have any interest in this game, if there's a little itch in your brain telling you that you should play it, it sounds interesting, go play it. It is literally $4 on Steam. It's like 15 minutes maybe. It will not take much of your time. And once you've done that, come back to this video and we'll talk about why this game is so good. We're gonna go over why this is such an effective form of paranoia, maybe one of the best portrayals of paranoia I've ever seen in a video game, and how it's able to evoke such strong emotions within its short runtime. Without further ado, Much Ado About Nothing, the Shakespeare play, hosted at the SRJC campus on Fridays, March. I'm gonna go this way. Walk with me. The game's premise is deceptively simple. You're trapped in a looping hallway, and your goal is to try and escape, although the way to is not made immediately obvious. After wandering around enough, you'll eventually notice two signs stuck on the wall, one illustrating the alarmingly simple rules of the game. Paying special attention to your surroundings is key to breaking out of the loop. If everything seems normal and everything's in its right place, just keep moving forward. Keep walking forward, walk down the hallway, and past the corridor. But if anything seems off about it, anything strange at all, turn right around and walk back in the opposite direction. For every hallway you assess correctly, the number on the yellow sign will go up by 1, and eventually it'll go up to 8, which you will then have reached the exit 8, which is how you beat the game. However, if you fail to assess one of these hallways correctly, it'll reset that number back down to 0, and you'll have to start all over again. Of the many questions this game presents, shockingly few are ever answered. Such as, who is this strange man? What is my name? And why don't we have any legs? Both the lack of context and the eerily strange gameplay scenario create a distinct and unique atmosphere. I think one of the most obvious differences between this and many other games of its kind is how clean and well lit the setting is. There's no rotting, decaying flesh on the walls, there's no grime covering the floor, there's no spiders or bugs, it's not unsanitary. In fact, it's a very sterile looking environment. interesting to note is that you're not alone. There's a guy who's just constantly walking around the halls, and he is part of the hall as well. So you're never alone. I mean, you're never alone in any horror game, but specifically with this one, you know that the fact that there's just this guy who just walks around the hallway and he is a part of the environment makes it so much more uncanny. In a horror game, you would expect when there is something like an entity or a person that shows up, it's terrifying and you're supposed to run from it. But the fact that this person is a constant that just walks around the hallway adds to this very surreal and uncanny atmosphere that the game so masterfully portrays. On the surface, there's almost nothing scary about how this game presents itself initially to the player, but I think it's this very visage of normality that makes this game so paranoia-inducing and terrifying. And to better illustrate this, I'm going to compare this to one of the most terrifying horror games maybe ever. This game, for those who have a keen eye, know that this is most likely inspired by a game known as PT, which is a looping hallway game. PT is downright terrifying. Its atmosphere is dark, dreary, oppressive. You're in a claustrophobic linear space with horrible lighting, bugs everywhere. The radio broadcasts a news report about a disturbing homicide case, while this horrible screeching lamp rocks back and forth from the ceiling, changing the lighting as it goes. Almost any singular thing from PT is probably scarier than the Exit 8. In the Exit 8, you have man. In PT, you have Lisa, who is scientifically crafted to be the most terrifying silhouetted figure ever. And you stop, I don't want it. Almost every singular thing from PT is scarier than the Exit 8. But it doesn't make you feel like you're losing your grip on reality. Let's do a quick test. Here's PT. Here's the Exit 8. Which was spooky? The thing is, PT is a lot less subtle with how it tries to unnerve the player. From the get-go, your player's guard is already armed and ready to go, with how dark and dreary and oppressive this atmosphere is. It's what you expect out of a horror game. So then you immediately expect there to be scares and spooks around each corner, so you are tense for the whole game. And it does so masterfully, but it's different than what the Exit 8 does. In the Exit 8, your guard is up for most of it, but you're not exactly sure why. In PT, you have Lisa and potential jump scares and other weird things that could happen that could come at you from almost every corner, but you know relatively why you are on edge. In the Exit 8, it's a little less clear. Because of how brightly lit, sterile, clean, and open this area is, how seemingly non-threatening the environment around you portrays itself to be, it creates this dissonance with the player. This uncanny feeling knowing that everything looks fine, but deep down something is rotten beneath the surface. PT rarely pulls its punches when it's trying to scare you. It's firing on all cylinders on the horror and the psychological and almost everything fear-related. And it does so masterfully. It's why this game is considered one of the scariest, if not the scariest game of all time. And as I've said, Lisa is the most terrifying thing ever made. I don't want any of it. I don't want it. Get out of there. Get out of there. Get out of there. Get out of there. The Exit 8 is also scary, but it's a little more abstract with how it goes about perturbing the player. The Exit 8 does not seek to disturb you, it rather seeks to unnerve you with seemingly normal imagery taken out of context and placed in a foreign setting, making it seem incredibly uncanny. When you round the corner and you see two identical businessmen standing at the other side of the hallway, it's not scary because men are scary, although depending on the scenario that is true. It's because this game has never shown you its full hand. What it has up its sleeve is hiding amidst the normality of the environment. So when you see something like this, your guard is immediately up, yet it doesn't display itself as downright threatening. In PT, you're paranoid because you don't know what scary shit is residing around the corner or what the game's gonna do, or if Lisa is right on your heels following you through the hallways. In the Exit 8, you're paranoid about what the game is hiding from you. Often the biggest threats are hiding in plain sight, blending in with the game's setting. I'd like to give a quick shout out to Perry and to the entire GDP of Yemen. It's great. God, I need a cigarette. If you hadn't figured it out yet, Kotaku Create based the subway in the game off of actual subways that exist in Japan, and I don't believe the game could work in any other setting, at least not to the same degree. Paranoia propagated in a modern setting. This game would not work if it was in space, it would not work if it was in a medieval castle, it only works in modern day setting. Any game weaponizing normality like the Exit 8 has to exist in a modern day setting. It's very Strand-like in that way. Dead Space. This game's title screen looks how the guy from the Resident Evil 4 title screen sounds.
Resident Evil 4.
You know, it's pretty scary. It's got some space, it's dark, and you're walking around with a flashlight. A game like Dead Space can only exist in space. Dead. But the premise like Dead Space, where it's this Lovecraftian roller coaster thriller in tight corridors, you're slicing off limbs of Lovecraftian melted abominations that once were human but are now twisted into flesh amalgamations beyond human comprehension, where in your quest to save humanity, you are losing touch with yourself and with reality the more. You are grappling with concepts you have no idea that humanity is barely wrapping their heads around, and they are trying to explore, and you sit at the very precipice holding back the floodgate that is the necromorphs and the blood moons. And space is the only setting that Dead Space works in, not a Japanese subway with a middle-aged businessman. Vice versa also applies. Having a game weaponizing the threat of normality makes no sense in a setting where a super advanced version of humans trying to exploit ancient Lovecraftian structures, which are a step in a superorganism's reproduction cycle, because nothing is normal about that. There's a good reason why all the Exit 8-like games all take place in modern day settings. We can only know what's normal today, now, and in our setting, our status quo. I can't actually know what normal is in a world setting like Breath of the Wild or Elden Ring, because nobody knows what the fuck normal is in that. The whole point of these games is they are abnormal, other worlds that function on other rules. Rules that have to be learned by the player. World history that has to be uncovered. Settings like these work for games where exploration or discovery are the main crux of your gameplay. It doesn't work as well for something like the Exit 8. I can study as much lore as I want, talk to every single character in the game, deeply study and try to learn what normal is in that game's setting, but I will never have as much innate embedded knowledge of what normal is in Elden Ring as I would have in the modern world where I actually live. The Exit 8 and every game imitating it knows that you're living in its setting of choice, so it doesn't have to world build for 3 hours and only half catch you up to speed, because you just get it. I think what makes the Exit 8 so special amongst all the other games like it is how accurate the setting is to actual Japanese subways. The tiles, the architecture, all the signs, even the posters on the wall are meticulously handcrafted to look exactly like how posters in Japan's subways actually look. It makes sense that this setting would be as accurate as it is. Kotaku Create resides in Japan, so they're stacked to be able to create as accurate of a portrayal of a Japanese subway as anyone could. However, I think the choice to make it a subway specifically, whether intentional or not, is kind of a brilliant decision. I think the game resonating with as many people as it has is largely due to subways being a more or less universally understood setting. Let's Google Japanese architecture. Wow. That's pretty. Now put American architecture on screen. I mean it's alright. It's okay. It's like an oval. This one's a cube. It's like a rectangle. It's like something I would build in Minecraft or something. Immediately you notice there's a difference between the two. Now let's look at Japanese subways. Compare that with American subways. Aside from subway, the difference is not as apparently obvious. Other than the Japanese writing, I just assumed this was a regular subway that could exist anywhere. As an American schmuck, I feel like if Kotaku Create decided to have this game's premise take place in a Japanese house, It might lose that all-inclusive quality that comes with the universality of something like a Subway. I'm not saying it would be a bad game. In fact, I think it might be just as great, but you lose the universality that comes with a setting like a Subway, which almost every developed country has in some form. If everything is abnormal, nothing's abnormal. And when everyone's super, no one will be. To quote famous architect Norman Foster, "I can see clearly now that I was wrong in not acting more decisively and more forthrightly in dealing with Watergate." Wait, it allows the anomalies that do crop up in the game to portray themselves as much more unnatural. Oh my god. I was so much brighter than I thought it was going to be. Now is probably as good a time as any to talk about the anomalies of the game themselves. At some point on the first playthrough, the player comes to the alarming and disturbing realization that they have no idea what the range and subtlety anomalies have. You can have one hallway that has a door handle that's in a slightly different position than it was in the first go, and then in the very next hallway, you get what the fuck? The lack of information on what you're actually looking for makes passing through each consecutive loop that much more stressful. It creates this tense feeling like you're walking on eggshells when seemingly nothing is happening. Unless the game makes it incredibly obvious, you have almost no idea what you're looking for. Anything could be off, or worse, nothing could seemingly be off. What's interesting about this game's atmosphere is that it's startlingly more stressful walking down a hallway where seemingly nothing is wrong than a hallway that has something noticeably off about it. Eventually, though, you will catch up to the game's subtle hide-and-seek game, eventually understanding how subtle anomalies can be. When you find these more subtle anomalies, the game doesn't get any easier. In fact, it only makes the game harder. The more anomalies you find, the bigger the list of anomalies in your head grows, the more places you have to check. The game encourages an almost feverishly attentive playstyle, where nothing can be overlooked. Every corner, poster, door, light, vent, all of it must be checked. It doesn't help that the stress becomes borderline unbearable once the yellow sign reads 8. You're so close at this point, only one hallway left to pass through, the exit being theoretically right around the corner. But there's a catch with this one. With every hallway up to this point, walking the right direction ups your progress by 1, whether there was an anomaly or not. With the final exit, however, you still have to pass through the hallway correctly, but you will only reach the exit if you walk through a hallway with no anomalies. You may very well reach what seems like the 8th and final hallway, but have to pass through maybe 3 or more before you're allowed to leave. The game doesn't tell you this beforehand, so when you come to this realization on your own, it forms this pit in your stomach, first out of confusion and then out of dread, knowing that the probability of failure only increases the more you succeed. Perhaps the height of my paranoia came after successfully passing through 4 final hallways. I was first relieved to finally see the way out, but relief slowly turned into dread. Something felt wrong about this hallway. A gut feeling that there's gotta be a catch. Something's off. What is it? Knowing what the game has taught me up to this point, I wanted to beat the game, but with extreme caution. I felt this horrible feeling like anything can run up from behind me and grab me, even though the game is saying that I've won right there. The clearest indication that I have beaten this game and I am allowed to leave. I look to my left as I reach the stairs. The sign reads Exit 0. And with both horror and relief, I turn around and run back. My paranoia was warranted. When anomalies are made incredibly obvious, even if they're scary, there's almost a relief in knowing that the hallway is in fact anomalous. Due to the unique position the game places you in, the way it gives you a break from paranoia sounds counterintuitive, but it's by scaring you. In this moment, I was absolutely terrified, but at the same time comforted because I knew exactly what was wrong with the hallway, and I didn't have to sit in suspense whether I found the anomaly or not. In this way, the exit 8 subverts the safe room trope often found in horror games, or just simply giving you a break from the action. Almost every Resident Evil game has some form of a save room, which serves as a checkpoint but also as a place of brief respite, giving you a break from the action before you're sent right back out into the fray. Even PT does this to some degree, but it doesn't give you any save rooms. The game isn't trying to constantly remain at 11 the whole time throughout. If you're scary all the time, you run the risk of either burning the player out or desensitizing them to the horror. This rule even applies to fucking action movies. Like, if John Wick just kept shooting his gun for the whole movie, which he does in the fourth one, there are still breaks in between to give the viewer a break. Despite technically being a break from the onslaught of paranoia, some of these anomalies are in fact dangerous, and you can actually die to them if you're not careful. Okay, you guys do anything? Even though these are the parts of the game where you're in the most immediate danger, they can still carry this strange reassurance, offsetting the paranoia with fear, which to me is one of the most interesting ways I've seen a video game give the player a quote-unquote break. They serve not only as an alleviation, but to also make the moments of paranoia that much more pungent. While you're almost always at some sort of state of unease, the game never feels tiresome. If the game is trying to be terrifying all the time, nothing is terrifying. Oh, yeah. Shit. Thank you for, watching the video. I don't know. This thing is a complete mess, gonna be completely honest. I am going to get out of here. I'm gonna go watch. Alright, see ya.